Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on our sales meeting. We really do appreciate it. Of course, we cannot do a lot of the things that we do without our marketing partners. So as you know, I am one of our biggest proponents and biggest supporters for our marketing partners. So of course, I'm going to introduce them first. For AJF, we have Sharon with AJF, an A and a J and the F.
Good morning, Greg and everybody at RE/MAX Buying. Great to see all of you. Real quick, we first of all want to thank you all for your continued support and the opportunity to be of service to you and your clients. We take that all very seriously. We have been growing again, and we continue to add to our team so we can cut those times down on getting your inspections booked, especially in this crazy market. We've actually taken Paul's Boot Camp a step further, and we have launched an apprentice program. We're actually helping those that have been unemployed with COVID that maybe don't have inspection training, and they're going through a rigorous program with us. We're excited to add that, so you will see more faces to come. And as a little FYI, if any of you have homes that you want to get inspected, even not a pre-listing, but a pre-listing, or you know that a home is vacant or property management, and you're willing to let us use it as a training home, just email me, sharon@ajfengineering.com, let me know. And the other point that I wanted to mention is that we are launching sewer scoping, and that will be happening next month. And in part of our training, if any of you want a free sewer scope for your own home, let us know. So we will be offering that up to only those that are close to us, and we consider RE/MAX Buying to be an extremely close group to the AJF team. So let us know. We're happy to give you a free sewer scope as we are mastering the process the AJF way. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sharon. And we have with ebrokermatch.com relocation, Frank and Colleen.
Good morning, everybody. Happy birthday, Greg, again, for anybody who doesn't know. We are placing a record number of referrals right now. So if anybody wants to know what is going on around the market or around the United States, feel free to give us a call. We're pretty familiar with most markets right now. The South is seeing an incredible amount of growth, Virginia as well, but we appreciate your support. And if you guys have any questions, we're just a phone call away. Thank
you, Colleen. Deanne Martin with Azing Realty Media. I don't know if Deanne's here. Deanne? Okay. With Chicago Title, we have Allie and Jill. Who's going to fight to get there first?
Good morning, everybody. How are you? I feel like I haven't seen anybody in so long. I'm Allie Flack with Chicago Title and Jill Bright with Chicago Title as well. Jill, are you waving?
I am. Good morning, everybody.
I'm pulling up my email from yesterday where I had all of the things that we have coming up this week. We actually have a really big week. We have a ton of stuff coming up. We have some personal branding classes, or a personal branding class with Chelsea Pites tomorrow. We have a luxury agent panel tomorrow as well, both in the afternoon. And then we have 2 CE classes, 1 general and 1 disclosure coming up on Thursday. So if you guys need to get your hours in, or if you're wanting to kind of get your personal branding up on the up and up, just let us know and we will register you guys for those classes. We'll actually include our emails in the chat so you guys can.
Yeah, and I'll just tack on the branding class. It's not just, obviously I think people think, oh, brand, but she's going to talk about like the content, how to create content, the 5 S's of content, how to optimize your bios, lots of different stuff that we're going to cover in that. So
really
good classes.
Yep, perfect. Thanks for having us, guys.
All right, thank you, you two. And I don't think is Tiffany on there? Tiffany Teradash with CNN Mortgage. And then we have Julia Walker with Fairway Mortgage. And then the Tobias Group. I see Kate on there somewhere.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone.
There we go.
I'm Caitlin Coleman with the Tobias Group. I am not a lender, but I am our partner support specialist. I am here to help you with your business. I get a lot of lending questions, so Ben always makes sure everyone understands. We have a couple things going up, like Allie and Jill said. I think we're sponsoring Staying Relevant Luxury Edition with you guys tomorrow, so I'm very excited for that. For our team, we also have a headshot day coming up. As far as loans are concerned, everything is business as usual. Interest rates are still really incredible, and we're still able to close in about 2 weeks. So really, if anyone wants to go over their business plan or, wants to discuss, the next steps for 2021, I'm always happy to discuss that via Zoom, coffee, whatever. And then, our team, which, as Sharon said, for her team is growing, so is ours. Definitely more loan officers being brought up to speed, as well, as our own dialer, and a few other things coming out in 2021 that we're pretty excited about, and I'll keep you guys updated. So yeah, it's like a normal sales meeting again, so I'm just happy to be here. Thanks, Greg. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, and with Fidelity National Title, we have a number. We have Jen and Troy, and I think I saw Sam on there too.
I believe we're all here. Welcome. Good to see you guys. Quick, this Thursday, we're doing a listings class, including, it's a panel, including Fine Prop's own superstar, Christy Ryan. So I'll put that in the chat if you want to join us Thursday at 10 a.m., kind of how to acquire listings in this crazy market that we're in.
And good morning, everybody. Jen Weller. Happy birthday, Greg Reeder. We love you. So also, you may have seen an email go out a few days ago about a luxury event we have coming up in May. And there's going to be 3 mega agents on it: Chris Karras, Mike Domer, and Lisa Westcott. So I will drop the information in the chat. So if you guys would like to sign up, it's going to be over Zoom, and we hope you guys can attend. It'll be great.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks.
Okay, I was going to give Sam an opportunity, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm here. Those events, yes. And then actually we did have a optimized IG Instagram class last week. And if you missed it, we have like a little takeaway graphic of the 5 things that you should really implement into your business. So if you missed that and you would like to put those in your business plan, shoot us an email and we can get that over to you.
All right, thank you so much. And Fidelity National Home Warranty, Mary.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be super quick. If you're looking for a reason to call your customers and have a great interaction, remind them it's not too late to get their AC seasonal work done before it gets hotter. That's all I'm going to say.
I think everybody understands that one right there. We have Get Your Move On. I don't think I see Wendy or Derek on. So Dennis, are you with us with Horizon Inspections? Nope. All right, Tara and Wendy from Old Republic.
Good morning, everybody. How is everybody? So good to see your faces as always. As you know, the new plan is out and it is phenomenal. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out to us. And I just want to remind you about new builds, because we have an awesome new build product, and they need to pay for it at close of escrow, and it'll go from the 2nd year, and it's for 4 full years. So we're going to see, hopefully, builders coming up and bringing some homes to the market. And I just want to make sure that you know that we will take very good care of your clients after the 1st year. Wendy, would you like to add something?
Happy birthday, Greg.
Thanks, Wendy. All right. Well, nothing else. That's a quick and easy one. Thanks. All right. Jason Kill with Roofing Solutions and Concepts. I didn't see anybody on there for that. Jeremy Mueller with State Farm. And right across the parking lot, you know her, Julie LaRaza, Stewart Title.
Good morning, everyone. Julie LaRaza with Stewart Title. So I just wanted to remind everyone about a couple of our features that have really been a mainstay during this quarantine COVID time, which is Zocum, the ability to do a remote earnest money deposit through an app. It's very secure and Consumers are loving it because they don't have to run to the bank to initiate a wire. They don't have to drop off. We don't have to send a courier. And then also the remote online notarizations, which has been our saving grace during this crazy time. So if you need more information on either of those, please reach out. I'm happy to share.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we have 4 new agents that have joined us since last month. We have Jennifer Harper in our Peoria office. Is she here? Tia Moon in our Peoria office. Joey Cardletta out in Greyhawk. And Sierra Carlson, excuse me, in Flagstaff. Are any of those here? Okay. All right, everybody. I wanted to let me get all my stuff out of here. I think that thank you to all of our partners. We appreciate all of your support. Sandy should be jumping on here pretty soon since he's our main speaker today. I hope he jumps on soon because I don't have a whole lot for you. Some of the things that I noticed are on the new ER. So most of us are still using the old ER. If you're using zip forms still, remember, any of the forms that are updated will not go on that. The zip forms is no longer supported by AAR, so any new forms will not go on there. You have SkySoap forms that you can get the new ER, and same thing with Transaction Desk. Whichever document system you're using, you can use it right there. But the big thing that I've seen is on the second page when it's talking about commissions. It's just like the old one. You have to put the total commission on the very, I think it's on line 35, I believe, 35, and then 37 is the cooperating broker. If it's a 6%, 4%, 100%, whatever the case is, you have to put the total on the total, and then the co-broke, theirs is broken out. Other than that, it's really pretty similar. It's kind of broken out a little bit more on headers, so it kind of gives a clear definition for your clients. That was one of the reasons it was changed, is a lot of the sellers were having issues trying to figure out where everything was. So AAR worked with a lot of the attorneys and decided that the bigger headings would actually help out and make things that were clear and defined. I don't know if you also know that we received a new buyer advisory. The buyer advisory came out. The content is exactly the same. The only differences is the web addresses that are in the document itself. So with that, make sure that anything that you, excuse me, anything that you have now, any new clients, if you're still working with somebody that after it is changed over, send them the updated one, because we want to make sure that they have all the information that they can to make the intelligent decision on purchasing a home. So other than that, that's all I have. Hopefully, I don't know if Sandy's here or not, so it's kind of a fail today. I apologize.
Hey, Greg, I have a question for you. It's
all right, go ahead.
on the new one. I did that over the weekend, and I was like, wow, this changed. So I just wanted to make sure. So on line 39, it says sale. So, you know, it's 6%. And then on line 42, I put 3%. So was that correct?
So yes, so I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. I don't know if I saved it yet. But yes, the total goes on the top line and then right afterwards. I've also seen a lot where it's putting the for sale only and then putting the co-broke in the rental section. So make sure that if you're doing a sale, you put it all in the little sale section. If you're doing a rental, it's all in the rental section. So
There was a few other things that were different, but I can't remember.
Yep.
But it was nothing big, but it just breaks it out more.
It does. And unfortunately, I don't have the new ER in my documents that I have saved and pulled off to the side. So, but
Well, that's okay.
we have
If
Mr.
it's wrong,
Carpin.
Sandy will let us know.
That's right. So Sandy just slammed the door. He's ready to get down to business. Everyone, Mr. Carpin, back from Connecticut and seeing his brand new granddaughter.
Yep, thanks. Good morning.
Yay.
Sorry I'm late. Good morning. Good morning. So just to pick up where Greg left off, there's actually a couple of new forms that came out in the last couple of weeks. I will tell you that I was a little disappointed with AAR because usually the brokers get a heads up of what's coming out the pipeline. We kind of get orientated to it so we can learn it ourselves and then teach it to you guys. And 3 forms came out, one of really significance that we weren't briefed on. So that's why you guys weren't given any advance warning that it's coming. You know, I always try to give you guys way advance notice of new things coming down the pipeline. So let me start with the easy one first. Did anybody notice there's a new buyer advisory that came out? Okay, does anybody know what the changes are on the buyer advisory? Okay.
Susan Hall, what are they?
It's not a big deal. It's truly not a big deal. There's a new advisory that came out. The only change is that they've changed some of the websites to some of the information. You know, it talks about pool disclosure or lead-based paint, and it gives you a website that the buyers can go to. That's the only thing that changed. The actual content, the way we use the buyer advisory, nothing changed on that end. But it did change where they changed some of the websites. So if you use some of those websites on your own personal pages for information, you might want to just double check some of those websites. But on the buyer advisory, that's the only thing that changed. Like Greg said, the single biggest change is the ER. They changed the format and they added some information. They didn't take away anything. They just added information and they reformatted the page. If you're using SkySlope forms or Transaction Desk, the new forms will be in there because they're AAR supported. I think I mentioned this last time. The biggest reason why they did this is because the ER forms used to be an armless form. It's no longer an armless form, it's an AAR form, which means that it's now the same form statewide. So our office in Flagstaff, they used to use the NAAR armless form, but now it's the same form. So if you have offices in Tucson or, you know, Verde Valley or Green Valley and so on, or Camp Verde, we all now use, because there's 9 different MLSs in the state of Arizona, we're all now using the same ER form. And that was the major catalyst for making the change. So they didn't take away information, they added some, and they just rearranged the dates, concepts, you know, co-brokes, disclosures, things like that. So I'm not going to go through it line by line. You need to read it. You just need to read it. I'm not going to tell you what position is where because you just need to understand it and read it. If you are still using the old ER for the next couple of weeks, I'm perfectly fine with it. Not a big deal to me because it's still a valid contract. But as we make this transition, but check whether it's your desktop or if you're old fashioned and still have some paper files in the trunk of your car when you're on the go, just make sure you're starting to reload and using the new forms. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Anybody use it and have any issues with it? Okay. I think it's fair to say, and so those that were in business 15 years ago during the REO market, that we are experiencing the craziest market ever in real estate, right? I don't think anybody will deny what we're experiencing, and whether it's us as realtors, the mortgage companies, the title companies, the inspection companies, there's a lot of, can I say the word shit going on out there? And you know, whether I believe this is a fair market or not, it is what it is, but we have to learn how to deal with it and get through it. The biggest issue I'm seeing, and the biggest issue the Department of Real Estate is seeing, the biggest issue that the legal hotline is seeing, is the language that we're using when we make it up. The words that we use, guys, really make a difference. It matters. And it matters if you're on the buyer side or the seller side. It really makes a difference. So I'll give you a few examples. I know we've talked about this, but it's not, we all just need to be careful with the words that we use.
This is Peggy.
I got her.
So for example, Peggy and I are doing a deal. perfect example, Peggy. So we make a deal, we write an offer, and Peggy comes back and says, well, and Peggy's got the listing, and she says, well, my sellers are afraid that what happens if it doesn't appraise? Because we did not waive the appraisal contingency. So we spoke about it, and my buyer says, okay, I'm willing to spend $10,000 above or below the appraised value. So we did a deal at 900,000. And if the house appraises 890 or better, we'll still the deal up to 900. And if the deal appraises at 895, then the buyer comes in with 5,000, right? So we wrote up the deal that says the buyer is willing to pay up to and no more than $10,000 above the appraised value, so long as it doesn't exceed the sales price, right? Sound good? For a buyer, that's magnificent. And Peggy and I talked about it, and I said, Peggy, here's the problem. It doesn't protect the seller, because the way this is written, what it says is the buyer will pay $10,000 more than appraised value, so long as it doesn't exceed the sales price of 900,000. So that means if the appraisal comes in at 850, the seller just agreed to sell this house at 860, right? Because that's what the words say. You got to be careful. So from a buyer standpoint, it's fabulous. And if you can get that through without the listing agent figuring it out, it is what it is. You may have a fight on your hands if the appraisal comes in really low. But if you're the listing agent, you need to have a bottom dollar for your seller. I'm seeing a lot of this. It's a problem. The words matter. And the words matter depending upon if you're on the buyer side or the seller side. How about this one? The buyer is waiving the inspection, and he sends the BINSR accepted with the contract. Well, guys, you could have all the inspections you want, but you have no chance as a buyer to cancel this deal based on an inspection, because you've already given that opportunity up at the time that you submitted the BINSR. Or how about you seeing this one? Buyer agrees not to ask for any repairs, but he's still going to do an inspection. It's fine. So what you're telling the seller is it's either all or nothing. I'm going to do my inspection, and since I'm not going to ask for repairs because I can't, I'm either in or out on the inspection. Well, that's kind of dangerous. So you got to analyze the words, because it's a problem. Greg, I'm sure in the 2 weeks that I was gone, you've got a lot of those phone calls. It's a problem, and we're making this stuff up as we go. Here's another one, and I gave some language to Peggy on our deal that protects the seller in a case. And I think you're going to see this. There's going to be a new additional clause addendum coming out. And it's the clauses that are already in there will remain, but they're adding something called a low appraisal contingency, or appraisal contingency shortfall. And it's kind of what I've talked about, where it protects both buyer and seller. It talks about, if the appraisal comes in less, the buyer is willing to pay X number of dollars more, so long as it doesn't exceed, a sales price. However, if it falls below a certain number, then the contract reverts back to the normal appraisal contingency in the contract. So this way, all parties are represented and somewhat protected in that clause. So when you're using those words or those languages, please use the words that are given to us by AAR. That'll keep us out of trouble more times than not. Okay, makes sense so far? Because we're making up the words, and guys, we're doing it as buyer's agents. We're writing up contract. We're trying to be creative. We're trying to get our deals through. I'm waiting for the first deal to come through where I read it, where it says that the buyer is willing to give their firstborn, in the next year and a half to the seller. I mean, the buyers are just giving up every potential right that they have. And we need to have this conversation with our buyers in our consultations. What is the buyer's risk tolerance in a deal? Because for me, that's what it boils down to. What is the buyer willing to give up, if anything, to get a deal done? Anybody want to comment? Anybody have any questions, issues they're dealing with?
Sandy, you said, and this may be a stupid question, to try and use the AAR words. Do we find them somewhere? Are they on those forms or do we call you? I usually call you.
It's called, and I'm going to tell you, it's called the additional clause addendum. Most of what you want will be there. We have in our RMFP library, we have some clauses that we keep always adding and changing and rearranging. But in our library, there are some recommended clauses. Those are places you should go first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and every deal is going to be different, and everything's going to be, you know, a little wordy. Sometimes we have to add words, and especially if we're listing agents, we're not writing the contract and we're receiving it. You know, the worst thing that we can get into in this market is ambiguity. You know, what the buyer said and what the seller interpreted may be two completely different things, and that's where most of our problems are coming from. That's why words matter, guys. We've become really good at this. Before this whole craziness in the market, you know, sometimes we get a contract and it would say, after the inspection period is complete, the buyer's money becomes non-refundable. So what the buyer is saying is not what the buyer really means, because if you have a 10-day inspection period and on day 8, the buyer submits the BINSR to the seller, the inspection period is now over. And whether the seller makes those repairs or not, his money just became non-refundable. That's not what the buyer meant, right? The buyer basically meant is that when the buyer and the seller come to an agreement on the BINSR, their money will become non-refundable. But making the money non-refundable after the inspection period is over, that's not what it says. And it's reasonable for the listing agent to interpret it exactly the way it was written. But I can guarantee you that's not the way it was interpreted. It was meant to be on the buyer side. So, and again, Cynthia, in answer to your question, a clause like that is in the AAR additional clause addendum.
Thank you.
I'll go one step further. AAR and our legal advice, they are not recommending any of the things that we're doing. And I remember they're all about risk tolerance, but they're also not in the field. I argue this all the time. They're not in the field. They're not in the trenches like we are trying to do our deals. And when they're not writing 6 and 7 and 8 offers at a time and getting rejected each time. And each time we try to become a little bit more creative. What I'm hearing every time I'm reviewing contracts, I'm calling you guys a little bit to find out from the buyer side, what did you do? How did you get your deal through? I'm always curious to know. And a lot of the theme I'm coming back is that you did one of two things. Number one, you talked to the listing agent and you had some sort of relationship with them. To me, that was key, that the listing agent knows, I know who Linda LeBlanc is. I've dealt with Veronica and Bonnie Burke before, and I know they have integrity, they get deals done, they can get me to the finish line, and I know they have a great reputation, or I've done a deal with them in the past, because that's what they were looking for. So if you can make that connection with a listing agent, that's fabulous. And number two, don't assume that the seller's hot buttons is just money, right? We all assume it's all about money, and we all assume it's cash. Yes, cash is king, you bet. But that's not the end of the game for the seller. How about closing time, lease backs, things like that. Maybe paying some of the seller's closing costs, whatever the case may be. It's not always about money. So try to find out what the seller's hot buttons are and cater to those needs. And if you can strike up a relationship. And the third thing I'm finding is if somehow or other the buyer met the seller while they were showing the house and they made a connection of some sort. There's some human kindness to this business that we're in. And I'm finding that if the buyer and seller, so the seller gets an offer, and remember it was that sweet young couple with the new baby and so on that's just moved here from Chicago, that helps. There's in commercial real estate, it's all business. There's no emotions. It's numbers and business, but there's a lot of emotions tied up to what we do. So that's my advice about trying to get our deals through and boy, I can go on for hours. Don't be that guy. I've talked about this before. Don't be the one that sells your soul to get a deal through. Don't be the one that sells out our clients to get a deal through. Guys, this will end. We'll get back to some sort of normalcy. For those that have been through the REO days and the banking days and back in the 80s or the early 90s with the RTC days, they were crazy times. And those that kept their integrity, are still doing business with a reputation today, with a good reputation today. I'm looking on my screen again, and Bonnie Burke, you're probably the oldest standing member. Am I telling the truth? Am I saying anything that's not accurate? You know, so we just have to just not lose our integrity, because this will end and we will get back to some normalcy. And I'll tell you what, if you sell your soul today, you're not getting it back tomorrow. It's just not gonna happen. So let me just rattle on for a few more minutes. Back in a buying craze where it was truly a seller's market before the REO days, there was several home builders, but one in particular that basically stopped co-broking with agents. And they were called Elliott Homes, for those that remember. And Elliott Homes was selling high-end homes at that time. They were, you know, in the $750 million range, and, you know, still a lot of money today, but back, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot more money. And they didn't feel they needed the real estate community anymore to sell their homes. And their co-broke was 0.25%. It was a slap in the face to the industry that we believe in, right? Toll Brothers was the only one that I could remember, or Shay, I think, did it too, that never reduced their co-broke to the real estate community. Elliott Homes, when that market passed, went out of business, and Toll Brothers is as good as they've ever been. And Toll Brothers has a reputation that we all agree on. You pay more money for them, you get a great product, but they've never stole out their integrity to the real estate community. So that's what I mean by never selling your soul. It's just not worth it.
Hey, Sandy, Jay had a question for you. He said the new appraisal shortfall draft was published by SAR last week. Should we use it in draft form?
Absolutely. If you want to use it, I said, I haven't really reviewed it yet. I haven't been to a meeting. I go to one tomorrow with the brokers just to find out some of the nuances about it. But Jay, absolutely. But I like, that's why I said earlier before, I like to get briefed on it so I can hear from different perspectives before I put it out there. So I'll give you an example, Jay. On that, there's a line there that says something about line 40. And I don't know what line 40 is. So if you were to take that draft and take out the words line 40, and you just put in the sales price of the house, it's really the same thing. So, but that's why I like to just review them and get a better understanding before I release it, or at least recommend it to you guys. But Jay, in answer to your question, if it's out there, absolutely feel free to use it. Just look at the words and make sure it makes sense to you. Okay. What else, guys? What else you got out there? Are you guys seeing appraisals not coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you guys dealing with it?
Well, we had an interesting situation where we had an appraisal done, the home appraised, the bank wanted a second appraisal. And what did it come in, Bonnie? 30,000 less? It was because they added the wife. Yeah, they added the wife now to the contract. So they required a second appraisal, which we've never heard of. And it came in 30,000 less.
And did you lower the price?
Within 2 weeks.
Did you negotiate something with the buyer and figure it out?
We negotiated, but they ultimately got that lower price.
Yeah. All right.
Well, how does having a wife living in the home make the appraisal lower?
Right. It was within 2 weeks. The appraisals happened 2 weeks from each other and a $30,000 difference.
So I want to share one last story with you, and this gets personal. And I've always been personal. I've been an open book. I'll always answer your questions about my business life and my personal life. So for those that may or may not know, I'm in the midst of selling my house and buying a new one. And I will tell you, this has been, and I know the realtor pretty well because it's me, right? This has been the most unpleasant experience in my entire real estate career. It has been a horrible, horrible experience. It just has.
You didn't use a realtor?
Me, honey, me.
Excuse me, you tell us that if we're selling our own homes, we are not to do that.
No, never said that. Dell said that. I didn't say that. When you buy a home, you have no protection and no E&O. When you sell a home, it's different. All right, but that's okay. This is the most unpleasant experience I've ever had in real estate in 30 plus years. And let me tell you, besides the market being frustrating, besides feel like I'm a piece of meat when I go look at a house and I have to wait online because 9 people are ahead of me to look at the house, and then you go see the next 9 people, the next same house. It's just and now I'm not doing this as a professional. I am now the principal. This has been a horrible experience, but here's where I want to go with this. We see our sellers, we see our buyers. This is a stressful market for everybody. I don't care if you're the seller and you're getting all these crazy offers. You're going to have to decide for which offer you're taking, which one's going to get you the bottom to the finish line. And I'll tell you something else that I'm hearing out there, just scuttlebutt, of buyers writing 3 and 4 offers simultaneously, knowing they're not going to get all those deals, but they're going to cancel 1 or 2 after, whatever. And they'll pay for the inspection because that's their insurance policy. But if they're getting, doing 1 deal at a time and they keep getting bidded out, and they go back to the second house they like, it's already sold, they're writing 3 or 4 offers simultaneously, knowing they're going to cancel. And you will never know that. So getting to the finish, it's just an unpleasant experience. But here's where I'm going with this. We see our buyers, we're in the car for 3 or 4 hours, we show them, we get along great. We sit at the seller's table, we talk about the market, they like us. We have no idea, zero, what buyers and sellers go through in their own home when we are not with them. I will tell you that Mrs. Carpin and I have never fought now 37 years of marriage the way we fought in the last 6 weeks. It is horrible. It was disgusting at the Carpin household. It was miserable, totally miserable. And then I got to be thinking, this can't be just me and Sharon. This is a stressful time. I have to believe that we were pretty typical of the way buyers and sellers, when we don't see them, how they get along or don't get along, or get frustrated with each other or frustrated with the situation. And then I realized we don't know that. We just don't know what our buyers and sellers are doing when we don't see them. Because the next day we see them, they'd say, hey, how you doing? How was your night? Where'd you go to a restaurant? Did you experience this new place if they're coming from out of town? Whatever, but we don't know what they're going through. I can almost assure you that we are not atypical of what we went through or are going through. So let's be sensitive. Let's have some bedside manner. We flippantly sell houses, and we don't, so you'll waive the appraisal contingency. So you'll paint the house and you'll put in new carpeting, and if you move this wall, well, that's stressful for a lot of people. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. And we're used to dealing in this community, with high-end homes. We're dealing $500,000, $2 million, $8 million homes. And we sometimes flippantly just put a number on a piece of paper, not realizing that that number means something to somebody. That $50,000 piece of land that we just sold is just as important to the guy that just sold his $8 million house. There is no difference other than a couple of zeros. And the name on line 1, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, they got the same emotions as Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And sometimes we just lose sight of the fact that they were just filling in names and numbers on a piece of paper. We take this 10-page piece of paper, we check boxes, we put a name, and then we don't even get to see them anymore and explain the contract. We just send them a DocuSign. Here's your contract, please review, sign, and return. And they don't even get a chance to review it, because when they sit next, it just takes you to the next place they're supposed to initial or sign. They're not reading it. So let's not lose that. Let's not lose that personal touch. That what used to make us such a great industry and such a great company, is that we have that personal touch, and we don't lose that personal flavor with our clients. They're not just a line on a piece of paper. And the number on line 10 is not just a purchase price. That is the sales price of $1 million deal or whatever it is that's so important to that person. And it's no less important to the guy that's buying the house. So I just ask you just to be sensitive to some of that, because we have a tendency just to, write the deals on a piece of paper, and we kind of lose that sensitivity, the bedside manner. And I'm experiencing as a buyer, and I'm experiencing as a seller. And it ain't pleasant, guys. It just isn't pleasant.
I want to ask you a question. Sandy, do you find that the homes that you're seeing to buy are not what normally a listing agent would tell a seller, take your pictures off the refrigerator, make it look like a model home? Or are you finding like whatever it is, and it's just the way it is? You don't want it, don't buy it.
Well, you guys tell me, what are you guys seeing out there? Anybody want to comment on that? Don't make me pick on you.
Well, you're looking, so what do you find? You're
Well, I
as a
think
realtor, what do you see?
Well, it's all of the above. Forget my own house. I know what I did, but all of the above. I think there are sellers out there that are just taking full advantage of the pricing in the market, and their attitude is, I will never get this kind of price for my house again. So therefore, I'm just going to put it up there, and if it's dirty, it's dirty. I'm not going to clean up. I'm not going to fold my dirty socks and underwear. I'm not going to throw out the garbage. I'm not going to even make it in showing condition. I'll take the pictures with my cell phone rather than hire a photographer. And as long as buyers are willing to buy those products, I had a buyer about a month ago. It was a flip. And when you looked at the pictures, it was beautiful. When you walked through the house, we only had a 20-minute period because there was 9 people behind us, right? And we looked at it. We really liked what they saw. We made an offer, and we won the bid. We got the offer. The next day, we went back to the house to look at it in greater detail. It was shit. It was really bad. The floors were uneven. Baseboards were missing. The standalone freestanding tub in the master was never affixed to the floor. So if you touched it, it leaned over. I mean, things like that. The faucets weren't connected properly, so there was a huge binzer on that one. But the point was, that was not $1 million house. It looked like one, but when you got into the details, so I think you're seeing all of the above. I think many sellers are still taking pride in their product. And there's others that just say, if I can get this price, I'm out of here. And they'll do it at any cost. And I think that's pretty typical across the board. But I think we just have to maintain our integrity. Then I can get into the frustration I personally see as a professional with commissions that are being out there. Now, we can't talk about commissions. We can do it as a company. We can't do this outside our, but for those that don't know, there was a time where the normal expected co-broke was 3.5% because it was a 7% listing. And over the years, that diminished to 6% and 3 and 3. I am seeing more and more deals out there that are co-broking at 2.5. And we're working harder than ever, physically, but we make our money with our knowledge. We make our money with our mental game, knowing what we're doing. And then sellers are saying, well, you're not doing anything. You just put the house up for sale and you're not really marketing and you don't need to do this. So why should I pay you, whatever your full commission is? You better have an answer for 6%.
Sandy, I noticed something this weekend that I never saw, and I think you live possibly within my area. I'm in Kierland. It's Cynthia. And I was like really shocked how many people responded. This woman, and she did a great job. She must have a realtor friend, or she's just a good writer, or she reads a lot of Zillow. She listed her house. She was taking in all these appointments, and they were actually realtors, for sale by owners. She listed it. They were realtors saying, I'm going to make an appointment with you to sell your home, I'm bringing a buyer in tomorrow, Sunday, which I'm guessing she was going to say, hey, you're going to pay me, or is she doing it for free? Because obviously this woman, I don't think is paying anybody. And she's super smart in her verbiage. She got so many hits and it was done so beautifully. And she said, photos, something about photos. There were no photos of it, but have you seen that?
I don't go on Zillow, so
no, it wasn't Zillow. It was on Nextdoor.
Well, I don't go to any of these. The only place I go is MLS. Those other third-party websites mean nothing.
It was the best one I've seen. And then I have a question for you. So when you were saying that, hey, when people are coming to see us and we're like, hey, your buyer comes back, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And you're ready to show more houses and they've got multiple offers out there. When they make an offer to the person, let's say the seller, and you could lose them, shouldn't they be writing, if they're doing, now I've never done this, but when they're doing the offer, if they're going to put offers to many sellers, shouldn't they be using that form multiple offer?
Yes.
But they don't?
Correct. Listen, guys, back in the short sale days, it was happening all day long. It was happening all day long. And I have no doubt it's happening now. Zero doubt it's happening now.
Should we ask them?
You certainly have the right to ask them, you bet. But Cynthia, here's the thing. If they're not going to tell you up front, they're probably not going to answer that question, truthfully. But you have every right to ask that question.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon, in answer to your question, Sharon Furman,
Yes.
I don't know. Sharon's question was how many offers either are we writing or are we receiving that they're completely waiving the home inspection to get an accepted offer. So you guys can chime in. When I'm looking at contracts, I always look for trends and so on. I'm not seeing a lot of it being totally waived. Not a lot, but some of them more than ever. But I'm seeing a lot of the inspection period being, 5 days or just a shortened period.
Right.
Or, here's a couple of tricks. Buyer agrees to buy the house as is. Guys, if you're the listing agent, it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. The contract already says the house is being sold as is. It doesn't mean the buyer can't do an inspection. It doesn't mean the buyer can't do a BINSR, right? It doesn't mean anything.
Sandy?
Thanks, Sandy. We're
ahead,
seeing
Linda.
the shortened inspection period, and we're working hard with our team to accommodate the shortened inspection period. We just work with we team up with a lot of inspection companies around the country in our mastermind coaching group.
Right.
And they're seeing it as high as 30% in some areas, and I just haven't seen that information, but wanted to know. And one of the things that we're looking at, if it gets that crazy, is what we're calling a walk and talk that we've occasionally done for investors, where it's not a full written report, it's not an inspection as per the BTR, but while the client's looking at it, at the property, that one of our inspectors will go and spend an hour with the buyer walking around the house and just taking a look at things so that, they get a little idea if they're actually have to waive it. So that's one of the trends that's happening in other areas. And I just was curious to see if we were seeing it here. So we're ready if that's what we have to move to.
Right.
Not good for the buyers, but at least it's an alternative if
Right.
it's that bad.
Right.
Linda?
Linda, you gonna say something?
This is just my opinion about home inspections, okay? I don't think as an agent, we should, I think as an agent, we should encourage our clients not to waive that, because these are the red flags that are very important when they purchase a house, if they come up. They need to know. I mean, it's an easy thing to possibly do. Sandy, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, to say that you won't request any repairs from the seller, but you still have the right to do the home inspection, so you have the choice to know what is wrong with the house.
Sure, absolutely.
You can always write into the contract, buyer has the right to do home inspection, but won't, different wording, of course, but won't request any repairs from the seller. That way, I think, because that's what the problem is. The seller doesn't want to have to repair anything, and more than anything else. So I think, to me, that's the best way to handle it. And you're protecting your buyer and you're protecting yourself in that case.
Yeah, I will disagree. That's what I said earlier at this meeting, is that you can do that, but is that being fair to the buyer? See, here's my opinion, guys. This is a crazy market. Give the buyer a chance to do their inspection, give the buyer their proper due diligence. And you know what? In 7 days, if the deal falls through, you're going to sell the house in 24 hours anyway. All you lost was a week. It's a little frustrating. Give the buyer a chance to do it. I mean, I didn't like this 20 years ago in the market, and I don't like it now. I just think it's unfair that we're pinching and squeezing buyers to no end. And I just think it's unfair. Now, also, I'm not stupid. This is the way the marketplace works. I get it. I just think, have a little compassion for the buyer, because you're a seller, they're going to become a buyer.
Hey,
No.
Sandy.
Hallelujah. Love you guys.
Thought on that, Sandy, too, is when talking to sellers, in your opinion, not letting the buyers do the inspection is kind of a liability on the seller standpoint, because the disclosure, right? The seller forgot, they didn't disclose that they had a leak that was found by the inspection company, right? So I think when you're representing sellers, you got to have that conversation too, even if you give them 5 days, right? Like give the buyer that opportunity to protect you as the seller.
Right. I agree. You know, like I said, I don't remember ever hearing, you know, crazy lawsuits back, you know, 15 years ago. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did have them for that exact same reason. And don't forget, you know, that doesn't release the seller of any liability for disclosure at all. Seller still has a lot of responsibility. There's going to be a lot of buyers that are going to be unhappy when they get into the house. You didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. Again, I'm the seller. I can tell you what I'm going through. You know, when somebody bought my house, they put down earnest money, they did an inspection, then their earnest money check bounced, and the buyer's agent never heard from this buyer again, ever. Completely just disappeared. How frustrating is that, right? All right, Jay Harry, great point. Jay Harry, if you're not reading in the chat box, says, attention to detail is still king. Well said, Jay. I agree. Words matter. Words matter.
He also brought up a good point about the HOA.
Yeah, and the HOA documents. So this is the last hurrah that a buyer has, that I don't want to call it a loophole because it's not. If you're the listing agent, you want those HOA docs in the buyer's hands ASAP. ASAP. I had a $5 bet with Julie and Melissa Finelli that I did a deal with a buyer. Don't worry, Peggy, it's not our buyer. And I did a deal with a buyer, and I said to her, I'll bet you $5 this deal will cancel on the last day of the HOA docs, which took 5 weeks. We were in escrow for 5 weeks. We did an inspection. Everything was fine. The HOA docs came back. They were perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong in this. There was zero wrong. And the buyer got cold feet, and he used that as an out, canceled the deal, got all of his money back. Now, the seller sold the house 24 hours later. Right? No harm, no foul, other than you lost some time. I get the frustration, all that stuff. But if you're gonna be in that deal and you're the listing agent, and for that, the buyer's agent, you want those HOA docs ASAP. And if no one wants to pay the $100 rush, I think it's worth getting it in ASAP. I don't know if there's a trick of getting the HOA docs prior to a sale if you're a listing agent, but you don't want that deal to go 5, 6, 7 weeks down the road, and then they get the HOA docs and they disapprove it. So just be careful, right? That's a last minute resort. Am I a little wound up on this Tuesday morning? Okay.
No, but Sandy, I've driven there quite a few times to the HOA because sometimes they take a long time. I find out where they are and I just drive there and I bring them a bag of candy and they give it to me.
Be careful.
About the candy?
No, well, because what happens is you took out liability. Now we're responsible. We're the ones that delivered those HOA docs. Even though we got them for the title from the HOA, we now become responsible. Not a bad idea. Just be aware of that.
Okay.
All right. I want everybody to do me one last favor. Everybody unmute yourselves.
I have one thing to say before you finish up, Sandy.
Yeah.
There was an email that went out today saying business development was today at 10 a.m. That was an incorrect statement. It is still Thursday. Business development is always going to be on Thursday at 10 a.m. She just mislabeled it.
All right, everybody's got to unmute themselves. This is not going to work until everybody unmutes themselves. I'm going to call you out by name. Katie, Cynthia, Allie. Let's see, Jill Bright, Troy, Bonnie Burke. Come on, Peggy, unmute yourselves, everybody.
Sandy, remember, this is being recorded.
I understand. Lori, Alex, Ellen, come on, everybody. Christy, Keith Sheffer, Frankie, come on. I'm going to call you out by name. Lori Carnes, everybody unmute yourselves. George, come on. Okay. Christy, Deborah, who am I missing?
Yes.
All right. We're singing happy birthday to Greg. Today is Greg's birthday. Please join me in a round of chorus. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Greg.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And as you can tell, Matthew beat me to the office this morning. He blew up all of these balloons that are on the floor. He put up a happy birthday banner for me. And the biggest thing that I got from that was Wow, you as a smoker blew all those balloons up?
Isn't today also like National Marijuana Day or something?
Oh,
Yeah.
How would you know that, Sandy?
yeah.
I heard it on the
20.
news this morning.
Yeah.
20.
Hey,
30
Sandy.
is good, Greg. 30 is good. Woo.
Yes.
Sandy.
Yes.
Hey, I wanted to make one comment before we get off the market
Yes.
conditions right now that I thought everybody might be interested in. In the last week, Colleen and I have had to reassign 2 agents where the agent was trying to coach the buyer on the craziness of the market. And we had 2 agents who had called us and said that their client said that the realtor they talked to, they felt were being too negative and they were concerned that they would not be able to buy a house. So I think coaching your potential buyers in this market is one thing, but letting your emotions get away from you in front of the client who hasn't even come here yet is very important. And you got to remember how that can be perceived by the potential buyer. Sometimes they can go, there's no way I'm working with this guy, even though, or gal, even though we might be being perfectly, perfectly straight up with how the market conditions are. Just be careful how you're presenting that to a potential buyer so it doesn't seem so negative.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting that it happened to us twice this week.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And like I said, we just can't lose our cool. We can't lose our professionalism. We can get caught up in the market pace, but we just have to listen. They're expecting us to be the professionals, and we have to maintain that integrity. And listen, I've known you all personally for a long time, and I have no doubt that everybody's doing it out there. We just can't get caught up in it and lose that integrity, because that's really all we got, guys. So, all right. Well, thanks for letting me blabber on for a little bit this morning. Life is good. You got to stay healthy, right? Got to take care of yourselves, and we move forward. So, thanks everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you again, marketing partners. If you
I
haven't,
hope you get
marketing
a
partners.
house. Hope you get a house, Sandy.
Yeah, me too.
Happy birthday, Greg.
That's why I have a couch in my
Sandy.
office.
Marketing
Wow.
partners, if you have not sent me your spotlight poster yet, please send that to me.
Oh, I forgot.
That's all right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.